You might think he's just being nice. You might think he's just comfortable around you. But what if I told you there's one sign, one specific behavior that quietly screams he's more in love with you than even he realizes? And the wild part is, most women overlook it, and most men don't even know they're doing it. Hey, welcome back to the channel, where we decode the silent language of love and help you make sense of what he's really feeling. Today, I'm going to reveal the one subtle signal that says he's falling for you hard, and he might not even have said a word yet. This isn't about sweet texts or public compliments. This isn't about buying flowers or calling every night. Those are great, but this is deeper. This is primal, unconscious. It's something men can't fake, and they rarely even notice when they're doing it. So why is this sign so important? Because if you miss it, you could start pulling away right when he's about to open up. You could misunderstand him and lose a connection that's quietly growing stronger every day. But if you recognize this moment, if you see it when it happens, you'll know without a doubt he's in love. Not just interested, not just attracted, but emotionally invested in a way that sticks. So if you're ready to catch that signal, when his heart speaks louder than his words, stick with me, because what I'm about to share might change how you see him forever. Let's get into it. Let's talk about something that confuses so many women. Why do men hide their feelings? Even from themselves. The truth is, a man not expressing his emotions doesn't mean he doesn't have them. In fact, some of the most emotionally intense moments a man experiences happen in complete silence, even when he's right in front of you. But unlike women who are often encouraged to reflect, express, and communicate their emotions from a young age, many men are raised to believe that vulnerability is weakness. They're taught directly or subtly that being emotional makes them less masculine. So what do? They bury it, they compartmentalize it, and sometimes they convince themselves that what they're feeling isn't even there. This is why so many men don't say, "I love you," even when they're already showing it. This is why he might pull away right when he starts getting close to you. It's not because he doesn't care, it's because something real is happening inside him, and he doesn't know how to process it. Think about that. Imagine feeling something intense and not knowing how to name it. Imagine being drawn to someone so deeply, but never having the emotional language to describe why. That's what happens when a man starts to fall in love. His instincts change. His focus shifts. He starts protecting you more, showing up for you more consistently, prioritizing you without fully understanding why he's doing it. And when you ask, "What are we?" or "How do you feel about me?" he might freeze, not because he's unsure about you, but because he's unsure about himself. It's emotional disconnection, not disinterest. When a man is emotionally attached, but emotionally unaware, love comes out sideways through actions, behaviors, and subtle changes in how he treats you. Understanding this is powerful. It helps you stop misreading his silence as rejection. It helps you see the truth behind his hesitation. And most of all, it allows you to respond with clarity instead of confusion. Because sometimes the deepest feelings are the quietest ones. And he might be loving you in a language he was never taught to speak. Let's keep going, and I'll show you what this love looks like when it finally breaks through. Here's where things get really interesting. Because what happens when a man starts to fall in love, but his mind hasn't caught up with his heart? This is where psychology plays a powerful role. You see, the male brain is wired to prioritize logic, control, and goal-oriented thinking. Emotional vulnerability often sits outside of that framework. When a man starts developing deeper feelings, especially if those feelings weren't planned or expected, it actually triggers internal conflict. He feels drawn to you, protective of you, emotionally attached, but he doesn't have a clear reason why. And that confusion creates resistance. This is what's known as cognitive dissonance. When someone's actions and feelings don't match what they think they should be feeling. In love, this shows up when a man starts doing all the things a loving partner does, being available, supporting you, opening up in little ways, but mentally he hasn't accepted that he's in love yet. His conscious mind hasn't labeled the feeling, but subconsciously it's already there. This is also why a guy might say, "I don't know what we are," even after he's acted like your boyfriend for weeks. His brain hasn't fully processed what his heart already knows. Here's something wild. Studies show that men often fall in love faster than women, but are slower to admit it, both to others and to themselves. Why? Because emotional commitment feels like surrender. It means letting go of control. And for a man who's spent years learning to suppress emotion, that feels risky. So instead, he follows instinct. He shows up when you're sick. He remembers little things you said 2 weeks ago. He worries about you walking home at night. He cares deeply. But when asked directly, do you love her? His brain stalls. Because the word love hasn't passed through his mental filters yet. Understanding this unlocks everything. It means that if you want to know where you really stand with him, don't listen to what he says, watch what he does. His actions are revealing the truth before he's even fully aware of it. And when that realization does hit him, it can be powerful and life-changing. Let's dive into the one sign that proves this love is already growing, even if he hasn't named it yet. So what is the number one sign that a man is falling in love with you, even if he hasn't admitted it to himself? Here it is. He starts anticipating your needs before you express them. It's subtle. It's easy to miss, but it's one of the most powerful shifts that happens when a man's heart begins to form a real emotional attachment, often before he realizes it. When he's falling hard, his brain starts prioritizing your comfort, your mood, your safety, and even your small daily needs. Without being asked, he becomes attuned to you in a way that goes beyond logic. He brings you water before you even mention you're thirsty. He sends a message when you've had a rough day, not because you told him, but because he felt it. He notices you're cold, and without saying a word, hands you his jacket. These aren't grand romantic gestures. They're instinctive, reflexive. And that's what makes them so real. When a man starts doing this, it's not just attraction, it's attachment. His protective instincts are kicking in. His emotional investment is deepening. And the craziest part? He often doesn't realize he's doing it. It just feels natural to him, like something he wants to do, even if he doesn't understand why. This kind of behavior comes from a place of care that isn't performance-based. He's not doing it to impress you. He's not doing it for recognition. He's doing it because he's emotionally aligned with you on a level he hasn't consciously acknowledged yet. And here's the key. Men don't do this for just anyone. This behavior is reserved. It's exclusive. It means you're living in his mind without even trying. It means you've touched a deeper part of him, the part that loves not through words, but through consistent, quiet action. So if you notice that he's thinking ahead for you, tuning into you emotionally, or showing up in little ways you didn't expect, that's your sign. He's falling. He may not say it. He may not even fully feel it yet, but his heart has already started making space for you. And next we look at how this shows up in real life moments you've probably seen before, but didn't know how to interpret until now. Let's bring this to life. Because it's one thing to talk about a man anticipating your needs or showing care before you ask. But what does that actually look like in real life? Let's say you casually mention you're nervous about an upcoming job interview. You didn't ask for help, and you weren't fishing for attention. But the next morning, he sends you a voice note. You've got this. Remember how prepared you were for that last presentation? They're lucky to have you. You never said you needed a pep talk. He just sensed it and delivered. That's not just kindness. That's emotional attunement. That's love in disguise. Or maybe you're at dinner together, and without a word, he moves the candle or the menu because the lighting is hitting your eyes at the wrong angle. You didn't complain. You didn't flinch, but he noticed. And more importantly, he cared enough to act on it. Another example, you're on your period and you're feeling off. You didn't make a big deal of it, but he shows up with your favorite snacks, maybe even a heating pad. He remembered, he planned, and he didn't make it a moment for attention. He just did it because he wants you to feel better. That's not convenience. That's connection. Sometimes this sign shows up in public. 2, you're walking into a crowded room together, and without thinking, he moves a little closer. His hand finds your lower back. He introduces you before you have to say anything. It's not about showing you off. It's about covering you, emotionally and socially, because he senses that you might feel unsure or out of place. One woman told me her boyfriend always drove a longer route home just to avoid a bumpy street. Because one time she winced while holding her coffee. She never said anything, but he remembered. He cared. And he quietly changed his behavior to keep her more comfortable. That's what real love looks like before the words come out. These are not dramatic movie-style gestures. They're not grand Instagram-worthy declarations. They're small, everyday moments, but they are consistent. And consistency is the love language of someone who's emotionally invested, even when they haven't said I love you yet. And here's what's so important. When you start noticing these patterns, it's a cue for you too. It tells you where his heart is leaning. It tells you what he values. And it gives you the power to respond with intention instead of confusion. So if you've experienced moments like these, don't brush them off. Don't second guess them. He may not know what to call it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not real. In fact, it might be more real than any words he could say. Remember, love isn't always loud. It's not always romantic music and big speeches. Sometimes it's him carrying your grocery bag without being asked. Sometimes it's remembering the name of your childhood pet and using it in a joke just to make you smile. Sometimes it's in the unspoken awareness that you're on his mind, even when you're not around. These are the moments where his heart is showing, even if his mouth stays silent. And that's the real life proof he's falling, and falling hard. Now that we've seen how this sign plays out in action, let's talk about how to respond when you recognize it. Because your reaction can either bring you closer or accidentally push him away. So now that you've spotted the sign, those subtle, consistent moments where he's anticipating your needs, showing care without being prompted, and acting from a place of emotional connection, the next question is, how do you respond? Because how you respond to these moments can either nurture the bond or unintentionally create distance. And the key is understanding that this type of love, quiet, unspoken, still forming, is fragile. Not because it's weak, but because it's still being understood, even by him. First, don't rush to label it. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to name or define a feeling before it's had time to fully grow. If you see these signs and immediately confront him with, "So what are we? Are you falling in love with me?" you might unintentionally trigger his mental defenses. Remember, he's still catching up to what his heart already knows. Instead, try this. Mirror the energy he's giving you, but with grace and calm confidence. If he's showing up in small ways, show appreciation in small ways. Say, "That meant a lot," or "You're really thoughtful." Keep it light, but intentional. These responses make him feel emotionally safe, and emotional safety is where love thrives. Next, reward emotional intimacy without forcing it. When he opens up, even in little ways, listen. Don't interrupt. Don't turn it into a relationship interview. Just hold space. Your stillness in those moments is powerful. It tells him you're safe here. Your feelings matter here. That creates a feedback loop. He gives, you receive, you reflect appreciation, and then he gives more. Also, match consistency with consistency. If he's making an effort, return the energy in your own way. Maybe he remembers how you take your coffee. So next time you remember the snack he mentioned loving as a kid. These gestures may seem small, but they build trust faster than words ever could. One crucial thing to avoid: don't test him. Don't create artificial situations just to see how much he cares. Emotional manipulation, even subtle, can sabotage something that was naturally unfolding. If you're not sure where he stands, let his actions continue to speak. Let his consistency become the evidence. That said, this doesn't mean you suppress your own needs. If something matters to you, express it, but express it from a place of connection, not pressure. You can say something like, "I really appreciate how you show up for me. It makes me feel seen." That kind of communication deepens the bond without cornering him. Here's the magic. When you respond from a place of self-worth and emotional steadiness, you become the anchor in his emotional storm. While he's still trying to understand what he's feeling, you're already holding space for both of you to grow into it, without fear, without demand. And that's rare. That's powerful. That's what makes a man move from "I don't know what this is" to "I never want to lose this." Because here's the truth, most men don't fall in love because someone convinced them. They fall in love because they feel understood. They feel safe to open up, to be soft, to be fully themselves, and they choose to stay where that feeling lives. So when you see the sign, those quiet, meaningful actions, don't rush, don't force, and don't doubt. Just respond gently, authentically, and with trust. Because the way you respond now could be the moment his heart finally catches up with his actions. Coming up, let's talk about what not to do during this phase. because even good intentions can sometimes create the wrong kind of tension if we're not careful. When you notice the signs that he's falling for you, even if he's not ready to admit it, there's a strong temptation to lean in, push for clarity, or even test him. But here's the truth. Navigating this phase requires patience, emotional intelligence, and understanding. It's easy to make mistakes, especially when emotions start to run high and you're uncertain about where you stand. But let's talk about the things you should absolutely avoid doing if you think he's falling for you. First, don't rush him into defining the relationship. The last thing you want to do when you sense he's falling for you is push him to give you a label or make an official declaration. Yes, it might feel like you're getting closer and you're eager to know where things are headed, but forcing a conversation too soon could make him feel trapped or pressured. This is a critical time in his emotional journey. And if you ask, where do we stand, or are you falling for me too soon, you risk creating unnecessary tension. Instead, let him process. Let him come to the realization on his own. Remember, he's still figuring out what these feelings mean, and your insistence for him to put them into words can cause him to retreat. Patience is key here. Let him lead the pace when it comes to discussing labels or commitments. Second, don't play games to test his feelings. There's a tendency to test whether someone truly cares by pulling away or playing hard to get. You might think that making him chase you will confirm his feelings, but this can backfire. When you pull back to test him, you create unnecessary confusion. If he senses you're distancing yourself, it may trigger insecurity or doubt, causing him to emotionally withdraw rather than open up more. Emotional manipulation doesn't foster a healthy bond. It creates mistrust. Instead of testing him, allow things to unfold naturally. If he's showing care and thoughtfulness, appreciate it, but don't make him prove it through challenges. His actions, as we've discussed, are already a reflection of his feelings. There's no need for games. Next, don't ignore your own needs. It's tempting to be so focused on him and his feelings, especially when you're excited about the connection. But if you neglect your own emotional well-being, it can create imbalance. If you're feeling uncertain or need reassurance, speak up in a healthy, constructive way, but avoid doing this in a demanding or needy tone. For example, instead of saying, "Why don't you ever tell me you love me?" try something like, "I really appreciate the little things you do, and it makes me feel cared for." This expresses your feelings without putting pressure on him to instantly reciprocate in a way he might not be ready for. Be honest with yourself about what you need in the relationship without forcing it onto him prematurely. Another big mistake to avoid: don't become overly reliant on his affection to validate your worth. It's easy to feel emotionally validated when someone's giving you attention, but it's essential to remember that your worth is inherent. It doesn't need to be proven through someone else's actions. If you begin to attach your self-esteem or sense of security to his affection, you set yourself up for emotional dependency, and that can create strain on both sides. Stay grounded in your own self-worth and let the relationship grow at a pace that feels authentic for both of you. Also, don't ignore red flags. While it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of the early stages of a relationship, remember to stay mindful of behavior that doesn't align with respect, trust, or healthy communication. If you notice inconsistency, lack of effort, or signs of emotional unavailability, don't excuse or overlook them. Trust your instincts. It's important to remember that genuine love isn't just about affection. It's about respect and mutual care. Finally, don't let fear drive your actions. If you're afraid he won't feel the same way, or if you're scared of being vulnerable, those fears can cloud your judgment. Don't sabotage your potential connection by assuming the worst or holding back out of fear. It's okay to be vulnerable, to open up, and to trust that what's meant to happen will unfold naturally. Fear can freeze you in place, so instead, embrace the connection with confidence, knowing that your worth is not tied to his responses. In short, take a step back and trust the process. Let him show you through his actions how deep his feelings go, and trust your own emotional intelligence. The more patient, open, and balanced you are, the more likely this connection will evolve into something lasting. So to recap, don't rush, don't play games, don't ignore your needs, don't lose sight of your worth, don't settle for inconsistency, and don't let fear dictate your actions. Instead, be patient, be honest, and let this emotional connection unfold naturally. It's not just about waiting, it's about allowing each moment to bring you closer without forcing anything. Up next, let's discuss what happens once you start to notice the depth of his feelings and how you can nurture that connection into something long-lasting. Now that you've seen the signs, recognized the patterns, and responded with emotional maturity and patience, the next step is all about building a deeper bond that lasts. Because love isn't just about the initial sparks, it's about how you nurture and grow that connection over time. One of the most important things to understand is that relationships evolve. The intense feelings of early attraction and excitement are often replaced by a deeper, more solid connection as time goes on. But the key to making that transition smoothly is to stay emotionally available. As your relationship grows, both of you will change. Your needs, goals, and desires may shift. But if you keep showing up for each other emotionally, actively listening, understanding, and supporting, those early sparks can turn into a steady flame. To build a deeper bond,